No.
Assalamu alaikum. It's Ibrahim from Idlib, Syria here, live from Idlib, Syria. SubhanAllah. Yesterday I was supposed to come alive on the live stream. We had a few, you could say, a few things that didn't allow me to come out on online yesterday, live. So I'm back up tonight. SubhanAllah, I've been a little bit busy here with some affairs, home affairs with the family and a few other things here in Idlib. So I'm going to try to freestyle it tonight. There's been a lot of events as usual, being that Idlib's constantly got a lot of, you could say, events popping up on a daily basis, whether it be on the front lines, attacks or strikes by the Assad regime, the Russians, humanitarian affairs and events, even social events that are happening on the ground here, economic events which are with the people and with the locals, the government establishing and building institutions. So we'll try to discuss a little bit about the current affairs which has happened in the week or so. Also give an opportunity for the people who have questions to send through their questions. Hopefully we can try to address the questions and discuss them, God willing. We'll get the ball rolling, inshallah. We are in a very cold stage in Idlib and in the region. SubhanAllah, in northern Aleppo there's been sights of snow, and we are expecting, according to the Weather Bureau, to be expecting snow in the next couple of days. Obviously this snow, people maybe in other countries see snow as a blessing, a time for the kids to play in the snow, an enjoyable time, you could say. Unfortunately in Idlib, in refugee camps, in the tough times that the Syrian people are facing, snow could be disastrous for many homes and many families. We have witnessed in the past that snow has affected tens of thousands of families residing in refugee camps, and has caused for them much hardship. There has been in the past people who have you could say become very sick as of the cold, as a result of the cold weather and the snow. Also, SubhanAllah, it will add to some of the hardships that people are facing. You do have some positives from the snow, and the farmers will say that this is a good season, a good time for snow, because it will kill a lot of the insects which will harm their harvest. So SubhanAllah, it's amazing how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the heavens and the earth, how snow comes in winter and then it kills the insects so the harvest can come out in the spring, etc. So like I said, I've mentioned this many times, rain, snow, these sort of temperatures, it's a blessing for some, being that Idlib relies in a great deal on farming. So it's a blessing for the farmers and real hardship for others and the other refugees who are residing in refugee camps. And this calls for us collectively to assist one another upon piety and good, and try to put our shoulders together to try to assist the Syrian people through these tough times. Also, the humanitarian aid organisations, the volunteers, they all hold some sort of responsibility. Us as an ummah, Muslim ummah, collectively, we should not and must not turn our back to the Syrian people. They have witnessed the atrocities at the hands of the enemies of the ummah. The Russians are fighting the Muslimin in Idlib. They are fighting them, you could say, and killing them and destroying them. The Muslims around the world hold responsibility to defend them and to support them and stand beside them in these tough times. SubhanAllah, that's one important event and one important situation that we're facing at the moment, and this calls for us all, like I said, to do our best and our most to stand by the Syrian people in this time, in this tough time, to keep them in our prayers and our dua. and that's subhanAllah, you don't know if you can make a dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yustajib, will reply and answer to that dua and help and relieve some of the hardship and burdens on the shoulders of our brothers and sisters in Idlib and in northern Aleppo, and Syrians even abroad. May Allah have mercy on them. There have been many other affairs. SubhanAllah, a big event happened last week with the over 1,900 students from the Idlib University who were awarded for their getting their certificates from Idlib University. 1,911 students, SubhanAllah. Yani these are the core of the future of the Syrian people and the Syrian revolution. The educated, those who have worked, those who have gone through war time with planes over their heads and being patient and studying, gone through these times to try to do their best and prepare themselves for their future. So these people have gone, and I believe they've passed 2 tests. Many of them had the opportunity to go out to Turkey and go out to Europe and go out to other areas around the world to study, but they've decided to stay in Idlib amongst their people, amongst their families, and study. SubhanAllah, that is a grand certificate. They definitely deserve to be awarded for that. Not to mention them going through the hardship of studying and being educated, and you could say going through the stages of education in higher education in the university, and finally getting the certificate and taking, hopefully moving on to future employment to assist and relieve the Syrian people and take part in establishing the future for the Syrian people in Idlib and beyond, hopefully even Damascus in the future, hopefully after the Assad regime falls and the Russians and the Iranians leave Syria. These people will definitely be needed then. Yeah, so that's basically a big event that happened. I think the Syrian people see this as a grand achievement. Idlib University, subhanAllah, it's been built by the revolutionaries, by the Mujahideen, by the Muslimin here residing here, the patient people. It's established, it's been going on for like 6 years now at university. I know 6 years is still a baby, and I've spoken to many of the doctors and the people that work in the university. They even consider the university to be in the early stages of development. This sort of educational infrastructure, you could say, like Idlib University, some of the private universities in liberated areas, these are the core pillars of the future. And subhanAllah, us following up their situation, following up their achievements, supporting that, try to contribute. Those who are educated, those who have ability to contribute on an educational level, definitely need to do their best to contribute qadr al-mustata, and that will assist them. We've seen some of the educated people in the Middle East, from Kuwait, from Turkey, from other countries in the Middle East, who have contributed to seminars and discussions about what's happening in the Middle East, political topics. And that's played a big role, it's a very positive role. Not to mention the many Syrian personalities in and out of Idlib and in northern Aleppo, who contribute in a positive way to this sort of educational seminars, and they bring awareness to the Syrian people and to you could say to the students who are seeking knowledge. SubhanAllah, one pillar inside of Idlib University, which I seen was SubhanAllah, a beautiful thing. They have a kulliyah, which is a college inside of the university, Kulliyat al-Sharia wal-Huquq. So this is a Sharia college, and it has with it law. These students are going to be the future of those who either become lawyers or judges, or those who become a'imma, khutaba. So they'll be the ones who manage and run the masajid or the mosques, and give the Friday sermons, give the classes, teach the people their religion and jurisprudence and the creed, etc. SubhanAllah, you see the people coming out of this college, the Sharia or Huquq, you can see the light in their faces, you can see, mashallah, genuinely mujahideen, revolutionaries who are coming out and definitely going to be a light in the future for the Syrian people and for the ummah, the Muslim ummah at large. There are hundreds of them, mashallah, and the university is growing day by day, and the people are seeking and establishing themselves to study and become educated. There is a lust and a want, a real deep want by the Syrian people to be educated and to learn. SubhanAllah, this is an environment, an atmosphere we all need to support and motivate, mashallah, and I'm glad that's the situation here. There are many other events and we could say events that have occurred over the past week or so. We will discuss them. We've had a few points come in, maybe we can address them inshallah. We've got a few, as I mentioned. We've got Zara Amin 2. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am from Malaysia. How are you? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. How are you? Pleasure to have our brothers and sisters from Malaysia speaking with us. That is an honor for us. Jazakumullahu khair. A question: why is there no battle fronts being opened by FSA, HTS or HD? Look, understanding the reality in Idlib, there have been battlefronts all throughout the revolution, all throughout the past 10 years or over 10 years, up until March 15th, approximately March 15th, 2020, the battles stopped. Now there's still skirmishes from then until today. Skirmishes pretty much on a daily basis. That's important. We do not, you could say, misunderstand that. There are skirmishes on a daily basis from both sides, or you could say that maybe from the Assad and even from the revolutionaries. This occurs on a daily basis. But understanding the reality, why there's no fronts opened, there have been big battles, like even the last battle which took place from Ramadan 2019 till March 2020, which is about 10 months or 11 months long. There were 6 or 7 fronts open at the same time by Russia, Iran, the Assad regime, Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed Lebanese militia. They were opened 6 fronts at the same time against the liberated areas. And these battles were fierce battles, 11 months long, thousands of martyrs, thousands of injured. We're not talking about skirmishes here and there. 6 full fronts. There are over 1 million people displaced. Imagine 1 million. This is a big, large city. Imagine 1 million people. We have Marib, Naaman, Khan Sheikhun, and these areas were filled with people who were all forcefully displaced. The areas and the villages were destroyed by the Russians and the Assad regime, their aeroplanes, etc. So this was a big test for the Syrian people, and understanding that is important. Re-establishing your ranks, redeveloping your ranks. The revolution went through a long period where it was decentralized. There wasn't a real umbrella which everyone fell under. From March 2020, there have been stages or steps taken forth to establish a good environment, or a positive environment where there will be one umbrella all the military factions work under, and that is Fath al-Mubin, Operations Room of Fath al-Mubin. I do believe that this Operations Room is still not at the stage where it should be, and there still are steps to be taken. But at least now there's now imagine before March 2020, there wasn't a true or real way these factions were communicating. So imagine a front line. It had 3 or 4 different posts, and these posts wouldn't communicate with each other. So the enemy would utilize these cracks to invade into the lands. So this umbrella now has this umbrella, Fath al-Mubin, And it's become a gateway for these factions to cooperate and communicate. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يقول in the Quran, إن الله يحب الذين يقاتلون في سبيله صفا كأنهم بنيان مرصوص. Surely Allah loves those who fight in His path in one straight fixed line, as though they are a strongly built building. So imagine the ranks, one post next to the other, they wouldn't have communication with each other. That does not resemble this ayah, as though they were a strongly built building. So one post needs to communicate with the next all the way along the whole front line, so the enemy can't penetrate and cannot infiltrate and come into the areas and cause fear, uncertainty and doubt, and kill the people and break their lines. So these steps have been very important, and they're still going through. At the moment you can see there's been a military college established in Idlib. People are being trained in not only in you could say they started being trained in an educational, academic way, military, academic way. So this is going to be important as well, contributing towards establishing a strong foundation, an army, a Muslim army who's capable of liberating areas. And this is where the future is going, inshallah. I can see the revolutionaries are preparing themselves for a big battle in the future. And let's keep our eyes on what's happening in Idlib, inshallah. And do not lose hope. The situation, inshallah, is for the better. And keep the people here in your dua. May God have mercy on them and relieve them of this situation. Ameen. I've got a question. Sorry, Zara mentioned, is there no more fight? Yes, there is. Like I said, on a daily basis, skirmishes. There's front lines, enmity, the war's still going, and both sides, the revolutionaries as well as the Russians, and that they both have ambitions, and I believe the will of the revolution is stronger and on a higher level, and that will be the key for them to take over Syria and to bring the millions of Syrians all around the world back to their homes and back to their villages in peace and harmony, and to establish for them a prosperous future, and to liberate Damascus from the evil criminal regime, God willing, sooner rather than later. We've got Dave. He says, Salam from Karachi. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a pleasure to have you on. Jazakumullah anna kull khair. Are the Shia still in Syria? He asks. How do Muhajirin settle well in Syria? Are there Shia still in Syria? They are, yes, there are Shia in Syria. They'd be in the Assad regime areas, and the vast majority of them would be Iranians, Lebanese, and Iraqis. So they're the Shia that you will find in Syria, the vast majority of them. Originally, the Shia in Syria make up maybe 1% or less of the population, so a very minute percentage. The Sunnah will be about 74% of the population of Syria. Alawites are about 11%. Christians are approximately 5%. And then you have smaller sects like the Ismailis and Ahmadis, etc. The Shia are approximately 1% or less of the population of Syria. But now you have tens of thousands, possibly even hundreds of thousands of Shia from around the world, around the Asian, Middle East. Like I said, Iranian-backed. They'd be the Shia in Syria. How do Muhajirin settle well in Syria? Yes, subhanAllah. The Syrian people have opened their arms and their homes for the Muhajirin. Many of the Muhajirin here are married from the Syrian people, have children. Their children go to schools. Many of the Muhajirin, the vast majority of them, stand shoulder to shoulder with the Syrian people in their revolution and their noble cause. And a vast majority of them cooperate directly with the local authorities here, and they fall under the umbrella, whether it be legally, even in social events, affairs. The vast majority of the Muhajirin, 98% of them, are under this umbrella. You do have some of the Muhajirin, maybe I'd say they're a very minute percentage, who you could say, haven't really settled in much, but I think that's been worked upon to try for them to settle in, inshallah. The Syrian people, there's a brotherly bond and love between the two. SubhanAllah, this is definitely an environment, atmosphere that we want to work on for it to carry on, inshallah. May God put blessings in that. We've got Dave who's actually added to that. Has the winter stopped battle? There's no battle now. So the winter hasn't stopped the battle in particular. That's the situation, Wallahu a'lam. We've got Zakaria. Zakaria. There is no maraka because Mujahideen are preparing, and they have thing they must conquer and do not oppression. Then Allah will grant them victory, inshallah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting point you've made. Oppression is definitely something that may prevent victory, and it may actually not just prevent victory, it may cause the downfall of any society or any organisation or any government, and that definitely needs to be kept in mind with every step people take, and especially the local authorities. Zakaria, brother Ibrahim, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is the situation of women and children in campsites in Afrin, Idlib, Aleppo, Lebanon? Is it snowing? Yes, as I mentioned at the start of this show, it snowed in many areas, and Saraha, it's not, the situation is difficult. I'd be lying to you if I said the situation was good or ideal. And this is a matter for us to deliver the message that people are going through hardship, people are going through tough times. May God have mercy on them and be with them. Women and children, women, and how can I explain to you? The Syrian society, women's role is a very vital, important role in the family, and subhanAllah, even like myself, as Lebanese with that background, very similar, 95% similarity between the Lebanese and the Syrians, one people. Even my area in Lebanon, where I'm from, it's originally from Wilayat Dimashq, which is the Damascus province in the time of the Khilafah al-Uthmaniyya, the time of the Ottoman Empire. So my family, the mother plays a very vital role in raising the children, teaching them, making sure that they're religious, they're organised, they not break, you could say, the law, these sort of things, constantly playing the role of the mentor, bringing up the children, especially the strong bond between a mother and the son. SubhanAllah, may Allah protect and bless our mothers. My mother has, being that our environment similar to the Syrian environment, done a huge role for me. SubhanAllah, may Allah bless her and reward her and grant her the highest levels of Jannah. And all our mothers, Iziyumanna kul khair. SubhanAllah, the mothers are really, I think, they're the pillar of the family. In tough times, they hold it together, be there for the children. There are many widows and orphans in Idlib and Syria. Keep them in mind, keep them in your prayers. SubhanAllah, that'd be the you could say the pinnacle, or they're the real category of people who are in need of our prayers and our dua. May Allah have mercy on them. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. I've got Zahra Amin too, but brother, shouldn't our sisters be strong and be able to support themselves and their family? If husband die from war, then if women only work in the house, how can she work and take care of children? SubhanAllah, women do work. There are many women that work. Actually, just so you can be in the picture, there are more female students in Idlib University than men, or than male. Approximately 60% female and 40% male. So you have education. There's a big thing. Women are studying and being educated more than men, even in Idlib, and that obviously transforms into education, into work and jobs and roles. So yeah, they do play a role in the workforce, definitely an important role. But being like we're in a war zone, subhanAllah, the men really are the main, like 99% of the pressure when it comes to the war is on men's shoulders. There are women, Jazakallah khair, who cook and prepare clothing and this sort of stuff in factories and that for the men, for the battles, for the battlefronts. But, and like I said, on the education side, women are like 60%, male are approximately 40%. It's a big difference there, about 20% difference. So yeah, they do play that role. SubhanAllah, and like I said, in widows and that, SubhanAllah, the family in the Syrian culture, the male or the father or the uncle, they really take a big responsibility over their daughter or sister in the case of if their husband gets martyred or killed. And subhanAllah, you see many situations in Syria where that's the case. May Allah have mercy on them. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. Go back to a couple of topics regarding the situation in Idlib. You have a big trend with regards to saving the hospitals in Idlib, and there have been some talk, and there have been some humanitarian aid organisations who have cut off funding for hospitals in Idlib and in liberated areas in general, you could say. SubhanAllah, this is a big test, and I think this is a test even not necessarily for as well as for the Syrian people. It's a test for the genuineness of those who want to support the oppressed. And these sort of topics are the ones where the true colours show. In times of difficulty, times of hardship, are these humanitarian aid organisations and volunteers going to stick by their mottos and by their words that they're going to support the oppressed, turning their back or cutting off funding or support for the Syrian people in Idlib at this time, this hard time, difficult time, where you have millions of refugees here. SubhanAllah, this really is a test for them to show their genuineness or not. And you have, in times of battles, in times of war, the hospitals play such a huge role. We have good friends, close friends of ours, mashallah, that work in this sector. Many of them are volunteers. Many of them work for very small amount of money, being that even a doctor, if he worked outside of Syria, could earn thousands of dollars per month. Some of them work for maybe a couple of $100 a month and live a very humble lifestyle, just so they can stand by their Syrian brothers and sisters here. There are doctors even from outside of Syria, originally from Europe, from Asia, and there are many Syrian doctors, jazakumullah khair. They are really heroes, and you see in times of where the rockets hit and the hospitals get filled with injured, and it's a tough job. And turning, like an organisation to turn their back, cut off funding from this situation, from these heroes, from these hospitals that are vital. They're like, especially in battle time, these hospitals are vital to support and stand by the people, because you have children, women, hospitals, schools, all this stuff being bombed by the Assad regime, civilian packed and filled areas. For this to be cut off, wallahi, that would be disastrous, and we must stand together to try to make sure that doesn't take place, and that's an amana. Yani advocate. The least you can do is advocate. You know what I mean? The least we can do is advocate, and that's the bare minimum. Allah knows best. There has been other events that have occurred over the past period, you could say, a week or so. One thing, subhanAllah, that's important is understanding the economic situation on the ground here and how people live. SubhanAllah, even myself, there was a picture that popped out on social media a couple of days ago, I think it was maybe a week ago or so, with the Prime Minister of Idlib buying bread on the go. People seeing him. He's a reasonably popular personality. Caught him on the picture while he was buying bread from one of the bakeries in Idlib. And this shows that maybe there's a atmosphere. I think people may misunderstand things in particular ways. I think it's important that people, and even the government and those who have some sort of authority, they do their best to try to be and live just like the people live. Be amongst them. Imagine families who don't have money to buy food, don't have money to buy bread. Maybe there might be, if you don't live, if you don't live in this situation, it'd be hard to understand it. So that's, I think, one very important thing that maybe the government and the local authorities here need to work upon. Come closer to the people, live the way they're living, see their hardship, see the situation in the refugee camps. Although it's a big burden, big amana on the shoulders of those who are in charge and those who have authority. And this revolution is greater than people, greater than organisations, greater than any government. It's huge, It's a very, it's a noble cause, and I think it's a cause that's linked to the whole ummah, whether it be in Syria, in the region, the Middle East, even around in Europe, around the world. The revolution has shaken. I believe the Syrian revolution has shaken the world, and its cause is it's a pure cause, and I think that's why it originally shook the hearts of the people around the world. Maybe issues have occurred throughout its period, misunderstandings, harsh media campaigns against the revolution to tarnish its image, problems, internal fighting, problems between factions, problems between personalities. All this needs to be cured, God willing, and as soon as possible. And things need to be unified between Idlib and northern Aleppo and all those who share the same noble cause and want to establish and do good for the Syrian people. These sort of steps need to be taken. The government authorities need to come on the ground closer to the people to understand the situation. Allah knows best. We'll see if we're coming close to the end of the podcast, to the live show. Maybe a shorter live show than the usual ones. We'll try to, inshallah, in the future, get more guests on and try to maybe mix it up a little bit. We'll see, maybe hopefully next week, try to get a guest on, inshallah, and try to discuss some important topics that are up in the air, misconceptions that need to be addressed. I will work on that, inshallah, the next couple of days, to get that ball rolling. And there are many guests that we want to invite, inshallah. I'm going to invite them to jump on board with us. Many people have spoken to us about this, actually, that they're interested in this sort of live show discussion. Look, if you have comments, advice that you'd like to send through, please send them through. I'll be able to address them throughout the week, hopefully in the future week, inshallah. Otherwise, I think we might wrap it up. And hopefully next Monday, inshallah, I'll post throughout this week, let you know when the next live show is going to be, inshallah. And thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure as usual. Don't forget to share the content, advocate for the Syrian people, keep them in your prayers. Jazakumullah khair. It's your brother Ibrahim from Idlib, Syria. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.